What if it's not you? No, don't get me wrong. I'm not here to comfort you. I don't mean this in a sense of nothing is your fault, relax, do nothing. I mean it more carefully than that. For a lot of people, myself included, there comes a point where you start realizing that a big part of who you are wasn't exactly chosen. It was shaped, nudged, or pressed into place by your family, by school, by expectations that were never really explained to you, by pretty much all your surroundings. So maybe it's not you in the sense that you chose this personality, or these habits, or these fears. Maybe you were kind of put into them, like shoes that were handed to you very early on, and you just kept wearing them because that's what you do. And for a while, that's fine. Actually, it's necessary. When you're young, you don't really have the perspective or the power to say, no, I'd prefer a different pair. You grow into whatever fits well enough to survive. But then something interesting happens. At some point, and the exact age doesn't really matter, you start noticing that the shoes hurt. They don't fit the way they used to. Or maybe they never fit. You just didn't have the language for the discomfort yet. And that's where things get tricky. Because this is usually the moment where people split into two paths. One path says, well, this is who I am. This is what life did to me. And that is low key victimhood. The subtle kind. The kind where you're not wrong, but you're also limiting yourself. The other path is harder to look at. It says, okay, maybe this isn't my fault, but it is my responsibility now. And that's an uncomfortable sentence. Because responsibility doesn't mean blame, it just means ownership. No one asked you if you wanted these shoes, but at some point you realize you're still wearing them. And realizing this can actually be relieving, because if it's not entirely you, then it's also not fixed. So why are you still wearing these old shoes? Why not get a better pair? The one that fits you and suits your style better. Are the metaphorical shoes too expensive? Meaning, is it too hard for you to change yourself now? The habits you hate are not your essence. The ways you avoid things are not your destiny. The version of yourself you've been tolerating isn't the only version available. There's no specific age where this becomes official. No ceremony where life taps you on the shoulder and says, all right, you're responsible now. It's more like a quiet moment. A moment where you realize that continuing as you are is also a choice. Maybe that moment arrived for you years ago, but you kept dodging the responsibility. You wouldn't be the only one doing that. Maybe the real question isn't when did I start wearing these, but rather how long am I willing to wear these? Blame looks backward, responsibility looks forward. Choosing a new pair of shoes doesn't mean you suddenly know where you're going. It just means you stop pretending the old ones still fit. So maybe it's not you, but it is your life. And whether you change it or not, you're still the one living inside it. Because at some point, continuing as you are becomes a decision, not an accident. And once you see that, you can't really unsee it. So if you're waiting for a permission and a moment to change, this might be it.